My name is Alice, and I am 32 years old. My story begins on a cold, rainy night that changed everything for me and my 5-year-old son, Ethan. We had lived a relatively normal life until that moment, one filled with joy, small struggles, and the usual ups and downs of family life. But what happened that night threw me into a whirlwind I could never have imagined. Ethan and I lived in a modest apartment in the suburbs. It wasn't much, but it was home. My husband, Mark, worked overseas, and while his absence was hard, it also meant financial stability for us. To make ends meet, I worked part-time as a freelance graphic designer. Life was manageable, albeit lonely at times, but we had learned to adapt to our circumstances. My mother-in-law, Martha, had moved in with us 3 years ago. She had claimed she needed support after my father-in-law's sudden passing, and out of compassion, we welcomed her into our home. At first, living with Martha was tolerable. She wasn't the warmest person, but she kept to herself. Over time, however, her attitude began to change. Subtle comments turned into outright criticisms. Small disagreements escalated into heated arguments. I found myself walking on eggshells, trying to avoid her wrath while raising Ethan. When Mark was home, Martha acted like a different person, sweet and accommodating. But the moment he left for another assignment, her true colors reappeared. On that fateful night, Ethan and I had just finished dinner. The sound of rain pounded against the windows as I cleared the table. Martha was unusually quiet, sitting in her recliner with a sour expression. I had learned to ignore her moods, but something about her demeanor that evening felt different. Colder, almost calculating. "Alice," she said suddenly, her voice sharp and commanding. "I think it's time you found another place to live." I froze mid-step, unsure if I had heard her correctly. "What are you talking about, Martha?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She crossed her arms and stared at me with a look of disdain. "This house belongs to Mark, and with him away, I see no reason for you to stay here. You're a burden, Alice. It's time you moved on." Her words hit me like a slap. "Martha, this is Ethan's home too. You can't just kick us out." She smirked, her gaze icy. "Oh, can I? You'll see how quickly I can. Now pack your things and leave." Panic surged through me. Where would we go? It was late and the storm outside was relentless. "Please, Martha, don't do this," I pleaded, my voice trembling. But she was unmoved. "I've made up my mind. You have until morning." I spent the night pacing the apartment, trying to think of a solution. Ethan was asleep in his room, blissfully unaware of the chaos unfolding. I couldn't bring myself to wake him. Around midnight, I decided to call Mark, even though I knew the time difference would make it inconvenient. As expected, he didn't answer. Desperation set in as I realized I had no one else to turn to. By morning, Martha's stance hadn't softened. She stood by the door, her arms folded, as I packed a small bag with essentials for Ethan and me. "Don't take too long," she said coldly. I looked at her, hoping to see some hint of remorse or humanity, but there was none. With no other choice, I bundled Ethan into the car and drove aimlessly through the city. The rain had stopped, but the overcast sky mirrored my mood, gray and bleak. Hours later, I found myself parked in front of a park. Ethan, curious as ever, asked, "Mommy, why are we here?" I forced a smile. "We're just taking a little break, sweetheart." We sat on a bench under the shelter of a large tree, watching as the world continued around us. Children played on the swings, their laughter a sharp contrast to the turmoil in my heart. I had no idea what to do next. As the sun began to set, a police car pulled up near the park entrance. 2 officers stepped out and walked toward us. My heart raced. "Are you Alice Carter?" one of them asked. I nodded hesitantly. "Yes, that's me. Is something wrong?" "We need you to come with us to the station," the officer said, his tone firm but not unkind. Confused and scared, I held Ethan's hand tightly as we followed the officers to their car. The ride to the station felt like an eternity. Questions swirled in my mind. Why were we being taken there? Had Martha filed a complaint against me? When we arrived, a familiar face was waiting for us in the lobby. It was Mark's younger brother, David. "Alice," he said, rushing over. "Are you okay?" "David?" "What's going on?" I asked, still reeling from the day's events. He sighed heavily. "Mark called me. He's been worried about how Martha's been treating you. He asked me to check on you, but when I got to the house and saw you weren't there, I called the police. I'm so sorry you had to go through this." Relief washed over me, though it was mixed with lingering fear and confusion. "Thank you, David. I didn't know what to do. You don't have to face this alone," he assured me. "Mark's on his way back. He's cutting his assignment short to deal with this." Hearing those words gave me a glimmer of hope. For the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel completely alone. The following days were a whirlwind. Mark returned home, and we confronted Martha together. She was defiant at first, claiming she had every right to the house. But Mark revealed a surprising detail. The property was in my name. He had insisted on it when we purchased it, wanting to ensure Ethan and I were secure no matter what. Martha's face turned pale as the truth sank in. "You can't do this to me," she spat. "I'm family." "Family doesn't treat each other this way," Mark replied firmly. "You've left Alice and Ethan out in the cold, and that's something I can't forgive." Legal proceedings followed, and with David's help, we arranged for Martha to move into an assisted living facility. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was the best option for everyone involved. As life slowly returned to normal, I found myself reflecting on the ordeal. It had been one of the most challenging experiences of my life, but it had also taught me the importance of standing up for myself and my son. Mark's unwavering support reminded me that we were a team, capable of overcoming anything together. In the end, we decided to sell the house and start fresh. Moving to a new city gave us the opportunity to rebuild our lives away from the shadows of the past. Ethan thrived in his new school, making friends and exploring his interests. Mark's new position allowed him to work closer to home, giving us the family time we had missed for so long. Though the memories of that night still linger, they no longer hold the same power over me. Instead, they serve as a reminder of my strength and resilience. Our new chapter is filled with hope, love, and the promise of brighter days ahead.